Welcome to the Startup Grind.
First question is, how excited are you for 43 North Week?
I just couldn't be more excited for 43 North Week. Got a chance to meet our new, the fourth class who just came in today from all over the world, literally. So I just couldn't be more excited. We've been preparing for this for a year, and I'm happy it's finally here.
Can you tell us some of the locations from which the winners have traveled?
Guys, start spelling them out. Hurry up. LA, Boston, Waterloo. Keep going, keep going. Louisiana. We got them from all over the place.
I also understand that there's local companies. Burner. I see the Burner guys here.
Yeah, right.
We got some local talent in the competition this year.
CPT out there too. Is Colpoy's over there too? Yeah, we got, there he is right back there. So we got a couple in the running this year. That's great.
Awesome.
So, typically, right off the bat, I ask about your history, how you became entrepreneurial, but I would really rather, do you know any good jokes? Can you tell us any good jokes right here?
No.
All right, so who are your mentors?
Well, there's a lot. I mean, professionally and personally, I would say, my mentors were Pete Banks, my swim coach, Doc Blake, Bob Scott from St. Joe's. I've had a number of friends who have served as friends and mentors over the years. My former business partner, Mark Perlow, up in Rochester, gave me a lot of counsel during times that were more pivotal in my life, and it was just a great year and a great sounding board. Most recently, I've got a very close relationship with my board, all of them, and Pete Grum and Jordy and Eric and Norma and Christina have just been wonderful to me and to our staff. I'd say professionally, for me, I don't know that there's any human from a professional perspective that has given me such profound guidance as Bill Maggio. From a professional and personal perspective, he's been an unbelievable leader to our organization, an unbelievable friend to me. But aside from that, the two people that sit on top of my podium are my parents, Tom and Vilma, who had their 50th wedding anniversary yesterday. So go ahead, Mom. Right back here, smiling away. Totally crying. That didn't take long. And my dad right here. So Dad, you can go ahead. You can throw your hand up there. So they had their 50th yesterday, and so they anchored our family in a lot of love and laid a really good foundation for my brother and me and our family to come. So I would say, they sit on top of my podium for great mentors.
So if you were to be forced to pitch a business idea this week at the finals, what do you got?
How you and I are going to go on tour DJing EDM shows all over the place. DJ Rick Jameson, DJ Crescendo with a K and an apostrophe. Are you kidding me? That's the idea.
I was praying that you wouldn't bring any.
Frankly, there's been a few actually. Mark and I sold our business in 2011. And we had a great business, and we scaled, and we worked at it hard. He was the chief visionary officer, and I was the chief architect. So we scaled that business substantially and ended up selling it to a division of Xerox in 2011. However, I also saw it as a premature move, And one thing I would say to all entrepreneurs is make sure that you're picking your partners correctly. That you have common vision and understand each other's intentions and agendas and mission in life, because that becomes very important. And so I've often thought about a version 2 of that business. The office printing and management services space still has not been disrupted. And, at one point, I'd say that Mark and I were among the true thought leaders, probably the only time in our lives, of that space. So I've often thought that would be an easy business to disrupt, knowing what we know. But there's so many things that are happening in the world now that we just don't know what the opportunities are going to be. What used to be science fiction is now on the horizon. So there's just so many opportunities out there to take advantage of. And so I'm kind of encouraged to see what's next.
So you mentioned Xerox. How long were you at Xerox?
I started in 95, left in 2000, Nicole, 5? And we just bought a business. Miles was just being born. And I had a great job at Xerox and decided to peel out, make a quarter of the amount that I was going to make at Xerox, and started this business with Mark in 2005. So it came full circle because we sold that business to Xerox 6 years later. But and then I spent another 3 years in that division. So I guess all in all, 19. You had it all in. Yeah.
So, in your opinion, going through that whole process, and peeling away, starting your own project, but then, ironically, selling it back to Xerox, and the acquisition process and everything. What knowledge do you think that you are taking from that, and bringing it to your current position at 43 North? What did you take with you that was so valuable?
The number one most valuable lesson it was a very challenging period of my life, and quite frankly, in 2011, when we sold the business, and many of you, if you haven't been through this before, or, I can assure you, because there's so many entrepreneurs here that you will go through this, that when you sell your business, it's kind of like, well, I'm the guy, right? They're going to tap into all my knowledge, and we'll go scale this thing just with different people, and so that's what Mark and I really thought. I had built it. Mark had the vision to keep driving the thing forward. And we found out within about 3 weeks that no, they didn't want the knowledge. And it was very difficult transition, to be honest with you. It actually was, I would say, the toughest year I've had professionally, because even though we had built this great business and we had a great culture and we had gotten to know our employees' families, and it was a family, the reality is, when you sell your business and you decide to be a part of that business, you got to pick the right partners, like I said before. And those partners didn't necessarily want to tap into that knowledge set. So for a year, it was really difficult, and emotionally, mentally, to stay motivated in that role. And then one day, I literally woke up, and I can remember it pretty vividly, and I was in a down mood, didn't want to go to work. We all run into that situation periodically. And I said, it's me. I'm the problem. I can control what I can control. And I chose that day that was going to be my thesis and mission for the duration of that year. I had a team that was spectacular, and I focused on what I could accomplish with that team. I became a better leader. And so the number one lesson was I changed my own attitude. And that made all the difference in the world, so much so that the following year became one of my best years professionally. But it was straight out of a commitment that I had made to myself.
So I'd like to talk about, kind of transition a little bit, move into, what's going on here in Buffalo. Even since, a year ago when we did the event with Maggio, I asked him the same question. And I'm excited to hear what you say, because I think a lot has improved, a lot has grown, a lot has changed for the better here in Buffalo, not only in the entrepreneurial and startup ecosystems, but just, in every ecosystem. I think everything's improving. So how do you think the ecosystem has changed since you started here at 43 North?
I have seen a greater willingness to collaborate and work together to move things forward. As in any team, and all of us know this, hopefully, that you can't accomplish everything you want to singularly or in an insulated fashion, that the next wave of greatness will come through new partnerships and new collaborations. And that's the one thing that I've seen begin to shift here in the Queen City, and that's been a really encouraging piece of our momentum. And I would say that people's belief that we live in a community that is destined for something wonderful that probably hasn't been seen in a century. And I envision this day, and I've said this to the staff, and I think we all agree, right, that someday I see that big bronze plaque somewhere in the city, And there won't be just 17 names on it or just one name. It will be a collection of people's efforts that have transformed our city and created a new culture and a new economy and a new opportunity to be prosperous and create wealth for their families. And I see that in a very inclusive, collaborative fashion.
So, can we clap it up for that? Because I thought that was brilliant. So I want to talk a little bit more about 43 North Week because it's filled to the brim with events. Tonight there's two. There was Startup Weekend all weekend, and through Friday. Friday's a big press day, so everybody's got a huge week. It's nonstop. How do you personally, now that you've been through the week a few times, how are you preparing for it mentally? In your own John Gavigan way. How do you prepare for such a crazy week?
I've been doing this for maybe the last 5 to 10 years, but a lot of the people that know me best know that I meditate in the morning. So when I wake up, I spend time in bed just contemplating the day, visualizing things that are going to happen. And because this is more of a prominent organization, and we have a lot of, 10,000 people, for 43 North Week, it's a lot of people, right? And it has a very big impact on this community, so I spend a lot of time visualizing. And so that's really how I prepare for it, and I put myself in a happy, I go to a happy space, I guess. Weird sort of way of saying it. But that's true. I spend a lot of time visualizing.
Now, if anybody in here has watched Happy Gilmore at all recently, for Happy to, in the end, win the tournament and beat Shooter McGavin, he had to also go to his happy place.
Yeah, you can give it up for that.
All right.
Hydra's spinning tunes right now.
Okay.
Mrs. Hydra. Where did he come from? Happy Gilmore.
Now, but when we mentioned a lot of you, the finalists out there, some of you will go home, some of you are going to move to Buffalo. Okay? Believe me, it's wonderful. But, John, if you were to give advice, why don't you give them advice right now? What advice do you have to provide to those that are moving to Buffalo January 1st?
Suck it in. We're the city of light, the Queen City, and the city of good neighbors. You'll find that the people here are among the greatest people that you will ever be around. Our community is going to welcome you like you probably can't imagine over the space of the next year. I would say get involved in the community. I think the winners in the past who have had the richest experiences here have been ones that have given up their time to talk with students and really affect the next generation of entrepreneurs and people and embrace it. Just get involved. I think the other thing that I would encourage everybody to do, and I guess maybe this is more of a global statement, but time is the most precious resource that you're going to be faced with this year. Make the most of it. It's kind of a pet peeve of mine, wasting time. And I guess the older you get, the more that commodity becomes really your only gold. And so make the most of the time that you have here and make every minute count.
Just real quick, why don't you tell them, if they were to hit one restaurant in Buffalo, where do you recommend that they go?
I love Billy Club right now. I don't know why. I'm digging Billy Club. It's in Allentown. It's absolutely terrific. Yeah, I love Billy Club. It's great food. They've got these great mushrooms called number 12 mushrooms that are made here locally. Unreal. I don't know. What else? Give me a good restaurant. Greener? Nothing? Curly's in Southtown's unbelievable. Is this a softball question?
Yes, that was me.
Athena, where is she? You just remodeled too. Curly's, great restaurant.
All right, quit joking around. Okay, so when I said to John, "Hey John, I'm writing up the questions. What do you really want to talk about?" He immediately answered, "Ask me about my team. All right, ask me about my family, and ask me about the people that I love." So this next question, I'm going to ask a member of your team to come up and ask you. Doing a little bit differently here. Don't tell Startup Grind headquarters. But Brian Straka is going to come up and ask you a question that I wrote about you because I think it's important that we touch on John Gavigan, the family man.
We're evaluating bonuses here shortly. Just
Do you need it?
You are known to adventure. I know you like exploring. I know you like being outdoors. So what's a place you like to explore? Or where do you like to explore with Max and Miles?
Oh man, guys, where do we like to explore? Well,
Did everybody hear the question okay?
where do we
The
like?
question was, I said, tell us about John G, the family man. You are adventurous, you are explorative, and you are an outdoorsman. So where is your favorite place to adventure with Max and Miles?
Routinely, we have Donut Tuesdays in the morning. It's one of our favorite things to do, right, guys? During the summers, we do Picnic Mondays. So we explore different parks, great Olmsted parks for those of you who are coming in from out of town. To explore new areas of the city is really important. There's a lot of heritage here and a lot of wonderful places to go. So we try to see them as much as we can. We're down in Ellicottville pretty much every weekend throughout the course of the winter, skiing and hiking and just enjoying the four seasons of this great area and region. So quite frankly, when it comes to my kids, I don't necessarily know that we have to go to a lot of places to just enjoy the adventure of being a father. So just kind of hanging out playing Legos sometimes can be one of the great days.
Have you ever stepped on a Lego that was hidden in your carpet?
This morning,
And the most
Every day.
painful step you'll ever take.
yeah, sorry. By the way, Curly's is the best restaurant. Did I already say that though?
No. Okay, are any other members of your family entrepreneurial?
I'm surrounded by them. I mean, are they entrepreneurial? My mom and dad started Tom's Food and Sports Service, which I like to akin to the junior varsity version of Delaware North. We used to run a whole bunch of concessions in the town of Tonawanda. And my mom back there, I remember her making egg salad sandwiches and making sure that everything was buttoned up at the shop. And my dad, I used to watch and how he would handle our employees in the supply chain, and super cool. And that's where my brother and I kind of got our roots. Nicole has owned her own interior design firm for years, 15, 16 years, right? She just rebranded recently, so to kind of watch her go from really more an academic education into business has been unbelievable, and just very inspirational. And that's the soul man. Raise your hand there, BG. I saw him walk in a little bit late. He's a little embarrassed. There he is, my brother. He's not only one of my favorite people, but one of the coolest entrepreneurs, quite frankly, this town has seen in a long time. Actually pivoted from his business that we co-founded in '99. And 17 years later, after running that business, we started so many years ago, decided to make a complete pivot in his life, train himself how to be a cobbler, because he loved working with his hands. And now he runs the Soul Man. And I would encourage you, did I tell you already how much I love Curly's? This is another plug for my bro, but I would encourage you to check it out. It's a really cool experience. He's an unbelievable entrepreneur. I leverage all of these people for my sounding board.
I have actually visited Soul Man, and he brought a pair of shoes that I deemed unwearable way back to life, and I wear them not today, but to this day. So,
I am
great
wearing
job.
your shoes, BG.
This is a really great question. I'm glad that I included this. I've never actually asked anybody this before, but and I hope I read it right. But if you were to tell one person, thank you, right, for helping you to become the person that you are today. You got it? You got it? Okay. Who would it be, and what did they do?
All right, I'm half Irish, so just you start seeing the tears trickle down, and forgive me. I've had a lot of instrumental people. I can tell you for sure, and I can go back through layers of my life on people that have affected me in one way or the other, even if it was just for a moment. Teachers, coaches, my parents, Nicole, my board, Maj, my friends. I mean, I can't tell you, Ray, Dave. Dave, the other Dave, and Phil, and all these people have had profound impacts on my life. But I would say the one person that has made me who I am today is my son Miles. He's the best person I know, and quite frankly, I love my children dearly, and I love them equally. But if you're asking the question, who has made me who I am, as we sit here today, it's been him. He asked a question when he was about 6, I want to say, and he blasted us. I can't even believe, I can't even remember the context of it, but he asked the question, are you being the best version of yourself? And he's 12 now. So that was a number of years ago, and it was very prophetic, and it can almost show you what type of soul he really has. And quite frankly, I constantly want to be a better person, a better father, because I do as much as I can to coach him and both my children as much as I can. But that little boy back there is my 100% my number one right now.
Colleen? Oops. Son of a bitch.
Colleen?
Oh boy.
Colleen's going to touch on the topic of team, which was another topic that John asked me, or told me that was very important to him. So as I change the battery in this mic, Colleen's going to kill some time and ask a question.
So, John.
Hi, C.
So the team, right? I'm Colleen Heidinger. I work for 43 North for John.
She's a director of events and program, and she's spectacular.
So John came on board what will be 3 years in March. One of the first things he did was hire my role and me. So I think it would be interesting to hear you talk about the importance of our team and what's quadrupled since then, and the family that we've become as a staff of 13. So,
That's a great idea. Team, go. Team Titans, go. We've grown a lot. Culture has always been at the epicenter, I think, of my role. It was my intent when we were building out the team that we'd find the right people and allow them to own the roles that we were in. Remember, Brian, we even had this conversation when we promoted you to communications manager. It was own the role. I would tell you holistically that there is no better team I've ever worked with, and quite frankly worked for, than the one that is here tonight, and the people that put on this week, and all the work that bubbled up to it, and they own their role. We've learned how to communicate with one another. We've learned how to hold each other accountable. We've learned how to hold ourselves accountable. We are accountable to each other. They're good people. They have high integrity. They are here, quite frankly, solely for the benefit of this community, which is unbelievable. And I just couldn't have asked for truly for a better team. Dan Green here that runs all of our operations, runs everything from judging to selection, state relations, you name it, manages over the incubation the space and our teams and management. We got Colleen that was just here, runs all of our events and programming, not just this week, but 50, 60 events throughout the year that really touch the greater community, students, and inclusive set of entrepreneurs. Peter Burakowski, I don't see here, he's some, oh, there he is. How can I miss him? Gee, escape, hey, buddy. Peter Bear. Peter does all of our recruitment. He's our chief storyteller, and he's got an unbelievable staff that we doubled this year. Straka was one of the early ones here, and he was basically the kitchen cabinet. I think it's just like anything that nobody wanted to do, you just give it to Brian because he was so reliable. And then we promoted him to communications manager this year, really well deserving. So he communicates on a broad spectrum. Ellie Anderson here, Elle's unbelievable. When she came here, it was total greenheart. It was like deer in headlights. First job right out of school, and and she didn't know what she didn't know. And to watch her evolve, particularly over the last year and a half, has been a joy and really rewarding. Pete Petrella, where's Pete? There he is back there, Director of Strategy and Development. Pete's been an unbelievable addition to our team, really raising the necessary funds to put on our competition and all the events and have the type of impact that we're doing here. Nate Benson is somewhere around with a camera. Where are you? Oh yeah. How can I miss you?
Seriously.
Oh my God. So if you see any of the blogs, the podcasts, that's all the communication, all the tools we use to communicate to a broader network, but also to the family within Western New York, is really Kim Spire and Nate Benson, and they have been an unbelievable addition this year to the marketing team. Adam Petrie, our CFO, makes sure we got enough cash in the bank and we don't not overspend anywhere. Where's Adam? There he is, right there with the bun on his head. Love it. Amy DeSarno, one of the just takes care of this space. Well, not this space, not Dig. That's you, baby. The one down in 43 North. She's unbelievable. Every meeting, Amy gives us an update as to what's happening with the family of entrepreneurs down there, whether it's personal struggles or a parent dying. She's got her finger on the pulse of what's happening in our world, and which has been unbelievable. And where's Spitz? There's Spitz. Spitz was one of the originators of 43 North as well, and he's been a great partner in crime to us. He was originally the director of development here, did a loop in operations, and very knowledgeable and unbelievable catalyst to the startup scene here. Who am I missing? Am I missing anybody? Who? What? Lauren and Lee. Where are they? Raise your hands. Lauren Rivette came to us from Tim Kennedy's office, and Lauren, I might butcher the political science student of the year at UB. I can't believe a 26-year-old has this much packed in her head, the maturity from which she carries her. It is unbelievable, the experience and knowledge that she brings to our organization, leading our incubation. She's the new director of incubation. One of the big pivots that we made this year was going from marketing to really caring for our teams in a more profound way. And Lauren's just done an unbelievable job. In fact, she's probably the MVP to a lot of our winners from this past year. And Lee Locklear, where is he? I can't see him back there, but Lee joined Colleen's team this year. And I gotta tell you, if you're waiting to see the next great events guy in this town, Lee is your man. He has so much confidence and what a warm smile, and it's just been, this is one of the great teams in Western New York right now. So I just please give it up a round of applause.
How we doing, Colleen? How we doing on time? We doing all right?
We have 27 minutes.
27 minutes.
I'm doing all right.
We're doing well. Doing very well. Thanks, John. Okay. We're going to keep moving here. I want to talk a little bit more about, I guess I don't really know how to describe this. I'm just going to ask you about entrepreneurship and where do you really think you got the bug to be entrepreneurial? What did it?
I mean, undoubtedly it was through Tom's Food and Sports Service when we were little. I mean, my brother and I used to watch the golf carts. Remember, Brian? back when he was 11, I was 13, and maybe even before that, I was 11, you were 9. And my dad used to force us to, with like bags of popcorn, so like during 4th of July, there'd be like 10,000 people watching all the fireworks, and he used to send us out with these trays, and we'd sell them for $1, and we'd get to keep 50 cents. Actually, I think we got to keep a quarter, sorry Dad, and they'd get to keep 75 cents. Really wanted to get it in there. And we didn't want to go, but those were the seeds, right? And watching, you work with our suppliers, and whether it was the cheese guy or the burger guy, or and how to deal with employee challenges, because we had 30 employees, so it was constantly evolving. And they ran that business for 20 years, so that's probably where it caught fire. Remember, we bought an Apple. They bought us an Apple IIe. My brother and I used to play decathlon all the time. It was a DOS-based system, Apple IIe, 1984, year that Van Halen Jump came out. Great album. Anyway, and I remember he had me doing payroll. I was 13, but I was good at math, and so he used to have me doing all the payroll and doing the books and whatever. And I remember that was the first program that I wrote, was doing our payroll system on the Apple IIe, and it was trying to innovate their business in some way, remember? And that's how we ran our payrolls off the Apple IIe, and that's what populated the, so it was cool. That was the original visual, I guess the visual that we needed, my brother and I needed to kind of cut our own path.
So, with all that in mind, you worked on so many different teams. You work with your brother, you work with family, you work with friends. Now some of your best friends, right?
Yeah.
So, what characteristic do you think that you admire most in those that you work with?
Well, you know me well enough to know that I love all people. I actually said at one point that if I was a professor, that nobody would actually get less than a B. I mean, there are very few Fs and there are very few As. Everybody's kind of get that my bell curve is like really between a B and an A minus. I would say, to answer that question honestly, would be, I think that I admire the qualities that people demonstrate. I like all people. And I think people demonstrate different qualities that I admire. I don't think anything is really, I think any quality is that much more important than the next. I love people for who they are and who God made them. It'd be like asking God, who's your favorite child on earth? It ain't gonna happen. Like, I like all people for who they are, how they were built, and we all have our faults. As Peter said, we're all yin and yang. We all have and that's really the way I feel about it. I admire the qualities and the individuals of the people in this room.
That's really great. Now, what's it like to work for Bellagio and Jody Levy?
Oh, man. Brian, you're responsible for doing bonuses this year. Metaphorically, I would say it's like this is one. I know. It's like working with the North Pole and the South Pole, and I'm the equator. Okay, and I've never, quite frankly, I don't have a professional experience working with two more talented people, but talents in completely different ways. Jordy was necessary. Jordy was my first chairman. He's now the chair emeritus for 43 North, and Bill Maggio is our current chairman. And, we know Jordy's history, and I think all of us are very familiar with the Magic Man. But they both bring very different skill sets. Jordy was necessary in the beginning because he needed to, light the fire of 43 North and invigorate the town, and he's a master marketer, and he's an unbelievably accomplished business person. And Bill, in his own right, remarkable business person, very accomplished. He's obviously engaged in a wide variety of things in the community, and assesses problems very differently. Jordy can go a couple layers deep, but it's more important to keep thrusting forward. Bill is already looking 15 spaces down the road. I wouldn't want to play chess against him. And having those two talents combined, for me as the leader of the organization, for our staff to be able to adhere to, is very helpful because you have two very different perspectives cut from the same values. So really impressive. We're very fortunate to have them, and I couldn't I don't, it's a blessing that I've gotten to work with both of them, truthfully.
So, I asked that question because, for me, those two people kind of, like you said, invigorated what is now the ecosystem that we work in, right?
Absolutely.
So,
Two of them.
two of them, you're right. So, with that being said, I think we can all agree here that there's some really cool stuff happening here in Buffalo. It's on the upswing, right? It's happening. And you used the word renaissance a few times already tonight, and I think it's remarkable. But we were far, far away from being in Silicon Valley or even in New York City. Or, I was in Waterloo the other day, and it's just phenomenal what they're doing with their university and everything. Just, that's for another time. But what do you think, or who do you think we need to do in Buffalo? What else can be done to continue moving forward, to eventually get there? What do you think?
Well, I think there's a lot of things. Quite frankly, there's a lot of things. Brad Feld famously said that it takes 20 years to build a startup ecosystem and an entrepreneurial culture in a community. And we're big believers in that. So all the seeds that we're planting today, and if you talk with people that have had experience working in this startup ecosystem in Western New York, when you poll them, they'll often say, we're probably about 5 or 6 years deep. Probably Launch New York, Z80 Labs were some of the big first indicators that something was happening here. 43 North came out, in 2014. So, we're off ground floor, and we're absolutely moving in the right direction, but we are still early, but our trajectory is moving in the right direction. So what do we need more of? Everything. You need more seed capital. You need to ensure that the jobs of the future are being trained today. You need those success visuals from not only the 43 North winners and companies and alumni, but the broad array of startups in this ecosystem. And then you need that money reinvested into the community that will ultimately then begin to perpetuate itself. So I think if I was really going to peel back, what's that, buddy? Need a couple exits, right? We got some good news actually earlier this week. It looks like we could be on a path for that. But the reality is, it's just you just keep on working on what you can control. Jobs, wealth, and prosperity is in our future. That's what we're all aiming towards. Anybody that's working with these guys, any of us that are working from an ecosystem building perspective, are all eyes ahead. Jobs, wealth, prosperity, and doing so in an inclusive way. Make sure anybody willing to fight for themselves will be fighting for. That's the truth. But it's planting seeds today that will ultimately uncover the outcomes that we all desire.
So simply put, 43 North has elevated Buffalo startup community with you at the helm. Right. So, in your history, in your few years, 5 years here, what sort of feedback have you received regarding our community from previous year's winners that have moved to Buffalo?
They've all been, I think, overwhelmed by the experience. I see Ace back there. Welcome back, my brother. So good to see you. Justin, was it a great experience while you were here? They're the endorsements right there. Regardless of whether or not these companies choose to stay, understand that 43 North's primary purpose is to help our companies succeed. We do everything we can to increase the likelihood that these companies will want to stay in Western New York or have a presence in Western New York for a longer duration of time. But it's all about them succeeding. And if we stay focused on that, and we deploy our assets and resources to enable that, then good things will happen. We obviously have an equity stake in each one of the companies that come through our competition, so that ultimately will benefit the community in ways of exits, as Bill mentioned. But I can guarantee you, I'm just loving seeing our old friends, that the ambassadors that we're creating, talking about this community because of how they were treated and how much effort we put behind them to help them succeed in their lives and in their businesses, will be the thing that ultimately, will be one of the ultimate definitions of our success. They're the ambassadors.
Can we clap it up for Painless 1099?
Yeah.
Drove all the way from Richmond today. So I got one more team member who's going to come up and ask you a question, but before I do that, I want you to just take a second and I want you to purely inspire everyone in this room to work harder. I want you to inspire them to do better and contribute to the community that we're building here. And I want you to give them the number one reason why they need to get a ticket now for the finals on Thursday.
We're all in this together. Make no mistake, every single person will have the right to ink their signature on that bronze plaque 30 years from now that this was the generation that helped create our future, our children's future. Whether or not those kids have fulfilling professional opportunities somewhere down the road will be dependent on the actions of every single person in this room. And Thursday is a crescendo of a lot of efforts. I love crescendo. Crescendo of a lot of efforts throughout the year. But make no mistake, the only reason why it works is because we are all in there together, pushing on the same side of the mountain, reframing our future and laying a new foundation of prosperity. So be there and enjoy it and embrace the moment.
Ladies and gentlemen, Dan Green.
Come on, buddy. You got a good one?
Oh, I got a good one. You are right. We are a team of accountability.
Oh boy. Here we go.
Tisk, John. Yeah, again. Well, you glossed over some of that Xerox history. And word on the street is that back then you were one of the greatest salesmen they ever saw. So, first part of a two-part question. Sell me the hamburger photographed in this picture of you. Sell me this burger. 10 seconds, go. That's
my brother.
I'm kidding. I just wanted an excuse to put that in everyone's world. Look delicious.
It's terrible.
Tell us what we can do for Buffalo. Looking, your job is in part to look what's coming down the pipeline. What can everyone in this room do, for the next year, 2, 3, 4, 5 years to improve Buffalo's sort of startup community, add to it, give to it?
The number one thing I could say, there's a lot of different ways to participate, but the number one thing is no business will succeed without customers and without employees, right? Not right? I mean, so that's it. So, Femi Secrets, I love it. I can't believe that you guys are finally here, right? But that's it. It's all about being customers and employees. So, other ways to participate. Consider having, like if you're a service provider, consider actually having programs related to the startup community, right? So, if you're in professional services or whatever, these are the startup community is at a very pivotal point where they don't necessarily have the capital to do everything that they want to do, right? So the service providers, consider being a supplier, be a customer, take their phone calls. These are the companies that will be in our restaurants, taking Ubers, going to your baristas and populating, unfortunately our health system and all those other things are important. So you have to support them in ways that translate to progress. Consider being an entrepreneur. If you've got that inkling, and you don't just sit on your idea. If it's a good idea and there's a market for it, and you're the right person to actually execute a plan with a team that you can identify, go do it. We live one life. Don't sit back and wait on those risks because there's a good chance you may regret it. So if I was going to answer this simply, which I'm sure is the thing that you were looking for, customer, investor, service provider, supplier, mentor, advisor. What else am I missing? Anything else out there? And if nothing else, show up to the events. Know that the startup community is important.
Well said, well said.
We give it up to John Gavigan one more time, please. No, we got one more thing to do.
All right, typically I open this to questions now, but we are tight for time. So, Mr. Zabel, if you could just push forward that whiteboard right there.
Oh no.
We're going to start with some questions that were written down for you, John. And the first one is, what happened to your Prius?
Are my insurance agents here?
I think I left the keys in there and it got stolen out of my driveway. Don't tell anybody.
Yeah, I was on my third Prius. I was the original action leader when it came to the Prius. And I was the original guy. And I had 3 of them, and I drove 500,000 miles in Priuses. So my third one, unfortunately, she got stolen. Yeah, she got stolen right out of my driveway. And my team is thinking that it happened because they have often said that I left the keys in there. I still dispute that, and I don't know how it was stolen. I think that they hotwired it. Ironically, though, it was found 3 months later, 3 blocks away. And weird. What's that, buddy? Oh, you're thinking that I was actually intentionally trying to get rid of the Prius. Next question.
How do you get to the top? By Olivia Gavigan.
How do I get to the top? Olivia, where are you? I don't see her. Oh, there you are, honey. How do you get to the top? You never stop moving your legs. Never stop moving your legs. You're gonna, as my father used to say, you're gonna run into a series of hills and valleys over the course of your life, but you never stop moving your legs.
Who taught you how to play ping pong? I didn't write that, but I wish I did. I'll see you tomorrow.
My dad taught us how to serve and hit it around. Within about 2 weeks, my brother and I became John McEnroe and Jimmy Connors. We played every day. We literally built our own ping pong table. Right, Brian? I'm not just imagining that. With 2x4s. So, say again?
Uphill both ways and all that.
Oh yeah. Yeah, so we just played constantly, my brother and I. And I was literally John McEnroe. I'd throw my ping pong paddle when I didn't get it, So it was...
Do.
Yeah, I still do. So yeah, that's how we played, right? It was great. One of my fondest memories of my youth.
That's a good lead into the last question, which is who's better at ping pong, Brian or John Gavigan?
Well, in the last ping pong diplomacy tournament, Brian and I had one of the all-time epic. Remember that, Brian? One of the epic. And Brian wanted to win so.
He's better than him.
My brother's better. I just win more.
Good, you ready? Ready to wrap it up?
All right, just real quick show of hands if you were inspired tonight by John Gavigan. Please put your hands in the air. Look at that, John.
Inspired by you.
And put your hands in the air if you're going to go to the finals at Shays on Thursday. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for coming to Startup Grind. Good luck to all the winners and the finalists. We will see you at Shays. Thank you, 43 North.